Welcome to This Week in Anderson High School Sports here on ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports. My name is Jason Griefer. We are joined by Anderson Assistant AD Zach McCormick. Zach, Newt's normally here right now. Where is he?
He is here at Anderson High School. I'll just go ahead and turn the old computer around and you can see what the weather's looking like out there. And my man is trying to beat the storm, which I don't think he successfully did, and mow the lines off of our shot put throwing area so we can put new lines down for our game of throws tonight.
How did he get that job? How did you not get that job as the assistant?
I don't know, but I'm thankful today.
I was gonna say, I figured you'd be pretty happy about it. So yes, Newt's out in the pouring rain trying to cut some lines for the game of throws. So let's start right there with track and field. Kind of take us through, what that event is going to look like, and also what else they have coming up this week on both sides.
Yeah, it's awesome. So the game of throws, we're super excited about. We get to see all of our kids come in and we host the event. So we'll actually get to see them throw 3 times this year, which is not the norm here at your own school. So we'll have about 6 schools from all over the place. We're going to come in today, and we're going to have shot put, discus, and then something new that Newt and I heard last night were the turbo javelin. So Newt heard javelin. He's like, oh man, I don't think that's a good idea. And then it ends up being like a toy javelin. Okay. It's pretty much all plastic. It's almost like one of the underwater torpedoes that you use when you were a kid. So we're going to throw those out and have that for a candy bar today. But I think we eased his mind a little bit as he walks in here soaking wet.
Oh boy.
he just came in. Yeah.
I can hear him in the background there.
Yeah, but we're excited. It's going to be awesome for some of our kids. Brandon Philhauer, Bobby Sanyard, Sean Gibbons, Paige Elliff, Aiden. There's some kids that we're very, very excited to see. Paige Elliff is breaking records all over the place. We're going to end up sending her a bill to her house so she can pay for our new record boards that she keeps breaking. But no, we're super excited about that. And then we're super excited to host the ECCs next week. So got a big thing going here for track here at Anderson.
How much outside of lawn mowing right now is going into the planning of the ECC championships, which you're hosting next week? I have to imagine that's a pretty big undertaking to have everybody else from the league come in.
Absolutely. But it's kind of nice that we just had the Anderson Invitational. So it's honestly going to be pretty similar to that, and actually less teams. So it's a little less to do logistically, but there's a lot of things that go in behind the scenes. Patty Sneed over here, Andy Wolf. Everybody, it's just a full team effort of trying to make sure that we get everything in place and make sure that we're going to run successful as an event as we can have, and make sure that the kids are able to get out there and Mother Nature leaves us alone and we can get after it like normal.
Since you mentioned Coach Wolf, I'll ask you as well. Are we planning on being able to get the spicy Mets back in time for this?
I don't know if we'll be able to do that or not, but I will say there's a hard push from one coach who has a unbelievable mustache who wants them to be there for that day.
Gee, I wonder who we're talking about there.
I don't know.
Gordon. Yeah, we'll see what we can do before next week's show. Let's move on. Let's start talking about some of your other teams here. Let's talk about your baseball team. And we've mentioned the last few weeks how jam-packed the ECC has been in terms of just everybody from top to bottom almost being right there and having and the opportunity to grab a league title. Some teams have started to try to separate themselves a little bit. Bartels Roads up at the top right now, but looking at the standings right now, you're only 2 games back of them in the loss column with 6 league games to go. But we look at the way things have worked out as of late, bit of a tough stretch right now and some close losses. Teams lost 3 or 4 overall in the last 10 days, but before Wednesday's scheduled game against Loveland, if Mother Nature will allow it to happen, your team will have had 8 days off to get ready for this Loveland game and then also the final stretch to potentially contend for a league title. What have they worked on during that time to try to turn some of these close losses around and start picking up some wins so that they can challenge for the top spot?
Sure. Honestly, when you get 8 days like this to practice, that hardly ever happens in baseball season unless Mother Nature does what it's doing right now. So you can really, I mean, fine tune a lot of the things that you can do. You can work on a lot of things that have kind of the coaches have seen that maybe they haven't worked on as much as some of the other things in practice, that they can go ahead and make sure none of those things ever happen again. So there's really a ton of things that they've been able to work on throughout this stretch. And hopefully Mother Nature continues to not pour on us. And we'll be able to get some games in this week.
Chris Newton has joined us here on the podcast here. Newt, I don't, from what I gather, the weather wasn't so kind to you just a few moments ago.
You know, I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, but I got done what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a little bit more, but I figured it was time to go when I got dive bombed by about 4 geese honking at me, telling me how stupid I was. When the geese are doing that, I guess it's time to come inside.
Yeah, and those things may look friendly and they're not in any way.
They weren't. Let me just tell you, Jason,
yeah.
They were honking at me very, very meanly.
Yeah, those are some evil creatures for sure. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we will get another goose report on next week's show here. Newt, let me ask you about your softball team here and kind of where they've been at and kind of where we're going here. They've been kind of on a roller coaster run all year long. That's really continued since we last spoke. You got a couple of nice wins over Walnut Hills since we last spoke, but then you also dropped a couple to Bartels Road and to McNick. So the up and down season kind of continues. We've also learned since we last spoke and over the weekend, the postseason draw was announced for the softball team. You're going to get Princeton in round 1. You've already beaten them during the regular season a couple of weeks ago, and potentially a very good Mason team in round 2 should you get past Princeton in round 1. When the draw was announced, were you surprised by it? What did the coaches make of it?
No, they were excited. You know, to talk about last weekend, Friday we win a double header and all our kids contribute, and then Saturday we lost 2, but we were right in those ball games. And with inexperience and the youth that we have, there's always that one inning, unfortunately. And we had that inning a couple times on Saturday, but they fought hard, and gosh darn, we got Grace Trapp. We got one of our pitchers out right now. And then another pitcher wasn't there on Saturday. So what we have is Grace Trapp throwing both games. And I know softball, you can, it's not like baseball, but I got to tell you what, when you throw Friday night and then you come in Saturday, I mean, Grace Trapp was an absolute champ for us, and she did a great job. But as for the tournament, I mean, we're excited about the draw. All you do is you want to advance, and we have a game that we know we beat Princeton before, but that certainly doesn't mean we're going to beat them now. So, but we have a chance to win that game, and then we have a chance to move on to the next level. And whoever is at that next level, we'll worry about that when we get there. So, but they're excited to be able to go out there and compete, and to have a game that we know, the mindset of a teenager when they step out on the field, we know we can win that game. And so that'll be huge as we step out there Monday, and, we'll worry about Mason Comets when we get there. Or they will worry about us.
There you go. There you go. There we go. Now we're getting corrected there. Zach, let me switch over to you and let me talk about girls lacrosse right now. A rough week last week, to say the least, losing all 4 matches. Of course, the first was a resumption of a previously suspended game against Lebanon, which you fell 13-11 ultimately in that one. But then 3 in a row where your team really has it kind of taken to them in that regard by Springboro, by Loveland, and ultimately by Kings on Saturday there. We look at the way the regular season sets up now. You've got 3 of the last 4 on the road. 3 of the last 4 are also against non-conference opponents, and the non-conference slate has not been kind to your team this year. It's been a very tough schedule, but your team's only 1-6 in the non-conference on the season. I'm wondering, as we look at these 3 non-conference games scheduled anyway, with McNick, Mercy McCallie, and Wyoming, assuming those all get played thanks to Mother Nature, how important are these non-conference games going to be for your team as they try to build towards the postseason, knowing that the odds are once you get to the postseason, you're not going to see an ACC team?
Yeah, I mean, every game's an opportunity to grow. And, And when you're playing somebody that's not in your league, it's kind of another opportunity to where you can you can't take a deep breath and relax, but you know that it's not for the league standings. But I mean, that's essentially not why you play. You play to get better, and you play for your teammates, and you're hoping to just be the best that you can be that day. And these 3 games are going to be huge. But I want to backtrack real quick just to Saturday at Kings. I want to give a huge shout out to Heather Steiner. We had a senior night, or senior day, I should say, against Kings, and Heather Steiner, one of our parents of Annie Steiner, who's a great kid. She did an unbelievable job prepping and getting things ready. And we had a blast celebrating some of those awesome seniors that we have, and just all that they've done, their dedication to Anderson High School and the girls lacrosse team is awesome. So I really want to give kudos to them, kudos to our coaches, and most importantly, those 11 girls that we had, because they've done tremendous things for our lacrosse program, but also Anderson High School. So yeah, but going ahead, it's going to be tough as always. But when you get to play a team like McNick tonight, it's an opportunity to get fired up. It's crosstown rival. So I don't know. We'll hope that things work out in our favor, but we're going to be excited, and we're going to be ready to get better and hopefully get some W's in the column here soon.
Dude, Zach talked about having senior day for your some of your girls lacrosse players there. I'm wondering, as we're winding down the regular season for the spring sports programs, are you seeing any like extra appreciation or gratitude from these players? Maybe not necessarily verbally to you guys, but just you can kind of see it on their faces, the fact that they're able to have a senior day and parents are able to come out and honor their kids as well.
Yeah, I think more so maybe in the more so in the fall and the winter, you saw that because we did senior night kind of at the beginning of the year in the fall and the winter to make sure we did get it in. But with the spring athletes, what you're seeing is you're seeing that excitement level. They're not walking on eggshells thinking their season's going to be over, at any second. And that's the way, unfortunately, it was a little bit in the fall and then a ton in the winter. Every time I would call the coach, any coach, they most of the times they didn't pick up. I think I took that a little personal, but didn't pick up because they didn't want to hear bad news. And it hasn't been like that in the spring. And the kids, you can just see the excitement and the relief. And you mentioned our girls lacrosse team, and they struggled last week, but you can't tell that. I mean, because they're loving what they're doing. They're loving hanging out with their friends, getting after it. And so it has been so nice to see the kids kind of get back to being a little bit normal.
Over on the boys side of things, boys lacrosse, I should say, smoke Winton Woods on Monday, winning that game by a final of 19-1, and really is kind of continuing this kind of turnaround we're seeing with the boys team. They start the year off 2-7, so we're thinking, oh boy, this is going to be a tough year. But now all of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, they've won 3 out of 5 to get themselves to 5-9 overall. You've got Walnut Hills coming up before 3 non-conference games to finish out the regular season. What have you noticed, and what have the coaches said about this turnaround over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I love this group. They are hard, scrappy bunch. The problem is when we get down, it doesn't seem like we got the firepower to get back into it, and that's they're working on it and they're working on it, and it's just. I mean, we got some kids, Randall Davis and Hunter Davis. I think their mom feeds them nails and bolts and screws in the morning, because I mean they are as tough as you can get. Randall, I think, probably had about 17 assists last night. But what I have seen is I have seen some unbelievable team play come as of late, and I think they're working on. I think some of our kids trying doing too much on their own early on in the season, and now they're really trusting their teammates, they're trusting their coaches, they're playing together a lot more. And it's been great to see. But I mean, we've had, Austin Kroner in the goal has been just spectacular all year. But I mean, Ryan Hummel's really come on here as of late, and he has just played exceptional. Along with Randall and Hunter and Biggie, Noah Big and Mitch Dinkins, back in the back. So I'm excited where we're going to go. And again, you can just see it's so much more of a I'm going to rely on the person on my right. I'm going to rely on the person on my left instead of having to try to do everything on their own. And that's been really refreshing to see. And I'd like to, it's going to carry over, and we're going to keep moving on and do a great job. I do want to say this, we played very well last night. But this is the first time I've ever seen Winton Woods lacrosse team. And here's the thing. They struggled. We won 19-1. But I got to tell you what, that's one of the classiest groups of kids. And you wouldn't think, you think I'm making this up by saying the goalie was incredible. Their goalie was unbelievable. And we scored 19, but he probably had 39 saves. And but it was a great game. And although, we scored some goals, there's no doubt about that. That was a fun game because there was no chippiness, but they got after it, each other. But it was just, it was a fun game to watch.
Zach, let me bring you back in and get your thoughts on something Newt kind of touched on there a moment ago, kind of intimating that it took some time for these guys to work more as a unit, as opposed to trying to just get as much done individually as they could before. And the results were kind of indicative of that. Early on, more individual play, more losses, more of a team aspect of late. They're 3-2 in their last 5 there. Do you attribute that somewhat to not having a season a year ago and basically having to start fresh from 2 years off? And from your perspective, also as a former player, how much easier does it make the game when all of a sudden everybody on the team, whether it's in basketball in your case or lacrosse for these kids, it all of a sudden clicks that I can trust my teammates, and by doing so, we've got a better chance to win?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you put that perfect. I mean, a lot of times when in any sport, when you get down, you almost take it upon yourself to say, man, I'm going to go bring us back. And then really, I mean, sometimes it works, but not very often. And most of the time, it just ends up kind of hurting yourselves a little bit more and just keeps widening the gap. But definitely from last year, not having a season, I mean, the kids missed a whole entire season of not just games, but practice and getting the cohesion together, of playing together. And just, and what's crazy is it wasn't just the spring. I mean, COVID's been around this whole time, and you really have been, it's almost been frowned upon to hang out with your friends. Mm-hmm. So most of the time, I mean, in any team, you have your friends and you're hanging out all the time. And when you're hanging out outside of the games and practice, that's what makes a team great. And when you can't do that as much and you don't know the ins and outs of each kid, it's just such a bummer. And I felt terrible for those kids. They didn't get to experience that last year, but I definitely think we're starting to see it catch up a little bit and start to see us work out some things, because our kids are rolling and man, they're having a blast. And it's so fun and rewarding to see them, especially after not having a season like they did last year, to kind of figure things out and get some wins and then pick up the momentum at the right time. This is exactly when you want to start hitting your stride, is near the end of the season, to get ready for the postseason play. So we're excited. I mean, kudos to those kids, man. I mean, I couldn't imagine going through it, and I'm just beyond proud of the way that they've handled it and all the adversity that for 2 years to go through this. It's pretty amazing to see where they've all come, not just lacrosse, but all sports.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's wind down the show here and talk about, excuse me, your tennis team. And we talked last week kind of how things went in the regular season. They go unbeaten in the regular season in the league, go into the tournament up in Mason as the favorites to win the crown. And ultimately, we see a surprising result here come out, and that is the fact that your team does not win the crown as a group. We had a couple individual champions. Of course, your Hammer, Payson Scott wins in first singles. Your first doubles team of Tristan Stanek and Nick Hensley also wins in first doubles here. But ultimately, you wind up finishing second, as your second doubles team has a rough go of it. And the point total that they didn't gather ultimately winds up doing you in as far as the title goes here. Walnut Hills wins the title by 6 points there. Newt, let me start with you. What are the emotions on that day, knowing that you had so many kids play well, and all of a sudden it comes down to the second doubles that winds up making the difference between your team winning the crown and ultimately not winning it?
Well, yeah, you are right. It was an awesome day. I mean, they're getting after it, and you know, Payson Scott winning it with the championship. Ben Zhao coming in second, Stanley coming in third. Probably one of the most amazing matches was our first doubles. Nick Hensley and Tristan Stanek. I mean, we lost the first set. It was the last match of the day. Everybody is out of ATP but them. They're still playing. Team from Walnut Hills. And it was Nick Hensley was, I mean, he was cramping up something fierce. We come back, win the second set, go to the third set tiebreaker. They're battling. And Nick is just, I mean, really, really, really struggling. And finally went down on the court. And a huge shout out to the Walnut Hills coach. I don't know her name, but she was a great lady and showed a lot of class. You know, she could have just said, "Hey, they can't play, game's over." But no, she knew, you know, what Nick was going through, and she gave Nick some time to compose himself. And you know, the players did as well, and it was awesome. And Nick was able to come back and finish. And you know, we actually won. I think it was 16-14 in tiebreaker.
Mm.
So it was a very classy move on the part of Walnut Hills. But you know, as for you know, our second doubles, I think it was Alec Neese and Tommy Hadley. You know, for them not winning, you know, it's just part of the game. I mean, sometimes, you know, in baseball, you know, I went 0 for 3 a lot of the times, and we lost. And you know, I hope my teammates didn't look at me like, "Geez, well, Pete's Newt didn't get a hit again." So, you know, what they did was they picked each other up and they went through it. And, you know, that's just part of the game. But, you know, Tommy and Alec and Bradley Caldwell, they've been playing our two doubles and going at it and trying to find the right combination. They've had some good wins. But they just didn't get it done on, you know, Tuesday, and that happened. So, but in no way, shape, or form are we looking, you know, any of our teammates looking at that and the reason why we lost. If Ben would have come in first, if Stanley would have come in first, you know, we all had an active part in that as well. So but they were excited about their play. Sure, it's a little frustrating. You know, you battle like that and you lose, but I mean, that's part of the game, you know, competing. You're not always going to come out on top. So, but they were excited about that. And then they go to the Coaches Classic, and Payson finishes #1 at the Coaches Classic. I mean, flight B. I think they have flight A all the way to flight G. I think it is G or H. And obviously, the flight A is the top, flight B is the next. So that was an incredible competition that Payson had, and he ends up being the #1 player out of that. So they're building a lot of momentum as we go towards the tournament, and excited about it.
Well, and you bring it up, so I'll just go there now. The tournament draw for the tennis teams has been unveiled. You mentioned the strong play of Payson Scott. He will be the #3 seed in sectional play when that gets going, the #3 overall seed out of a litany of kids. So
Mm-hmm.
a really good accomplishment there. You're also going to have the #3 seed on the doubles side as well. So these two teams, particularly with Payson, and then also your #1 doubles, in very, very good spots to make deep runs in this sectional right here. How do they feel like this sectional sets up not only for Payson but also on the double side? And do you feel like you've got the draw and also the way that they're playing to make a run in the sectional, and who knows, maybe come out of it as a sectional champion?
Yeah, without a doubt. And again, what we try to do is we try to focus on, you know, we talking to the kids. It's hard in the sectionals. It's hard in the OHSA tournament because you look at that bracket and you play that bracket out. And you can't do that because you slip up and you get bit by somebody you should beat. So you know, taking it match by match, we've got winnable matches. And what we want to do is just focus on, you know, that first match at a time. And you're right, Payson and Tristan and Nick being 3 seeds, they got, you know, they're projected to win. So they need to win and advance. But they got to go out and play every single match. And I think, fortunately, Payson being a senior, Nick being a senior, you know, Tristan's a sophomore, but that he's a very mature sophomore out on the court. So you've got kids that have that experience. Payson plays all summer long in tournaments. So he's got that kind of experience and he understands. So, the excitement is we have a real possibility of getting some people to the next level in the state tournament. We got to take business by hand. And fortunately, that's why you play the ECC tournament to get ready. Then you play the Coaches Classic. They're those tournament settings. And so now when we start that up, they're ready to go.
Zach, you look at the way this thing sets up, and as we said, both number 3 seeds here for these boys in particular. You project that out, and logic says they should at least reach the semifinals in the sectionals, both Payson and also your double squads right there. When they saw the draw come out, are they looking at this as saying, I better get at least to the semifinal, otherwise this winds up being a disappointing run here in the tournament? Or are they even thinking about that at this point?
To be honest, I mean, you always strive to be the champion. That's what you want to be. You want to be the best. But to be the best, you got to win the game that's right in front of you. So they're looking at their first match. I mean, that's the most important match. So, I mean, obviously when you're a higher seed, there might be some expectations, but if you don't take care of business, that seed doesn't matter. So we're going to be focused on the one match right in front of us each time. And hopefully we'll be confident in that, but still be able to take care of business and get some W's and hopefully get all the way. I mean, I'm sure they're looking ahead a little bit, but Brent Johnson does a great job, and I think they're all pretty mature to where they're just going to be focused on the match that's ahead of them and make sure they take care of business so they can reach that point.
I tell you what, Jace, we can't fall asleep on the Zhao brothers as well. Stanley and Ben, they have performed very well. And, just because they're not seeded, we certainly, hope and kind of expect, them to advance as well. Stanley's a senior, and I got to tell you, man, he's an exciting player to watch. And his little brother, Ben, big, strong kid. And so we have an opportunity ahead of us to really make some waves here and advance a lot of kids out.
And it looks like the way the draw is set up, you have that opportunity not only for your seeded kids, but also the kids that, as you said, the Zhao brothers being unseeded on the double side here. Newt, lastly, before I let you go here, we started the podcast with just Zach on here today as you were out cutting some lines and ultimately got caught in a storm outside. I'm wondering why you didn't delegate those duties to your assistant athletic director.
I number one, I knew he would run a better show than me on this. Number two, I don't know. That's a great idea. Why didn't you do that, Zach? That's a great idea.
As soon as this podcast ends, it's going to be, hey, brother, you want to go out and cut the rest of that grass?
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's lightning very, very much. I cut the grass before the lightning started. Zach gets the rest of it with the lightning.
So, Zach, you're in a position where you can't say no. And I'm also imagining when this is over, you're going to play the role of a towel boy, so to speak, to help Newt dry off.
Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you got to bite the bullet and just, yes, sir. I do it at home all the time to my fiance. Might as well do it here too.
Well, he was shaking his arm like this. Oh, my elbow. I can't do it. I can't cut the grass today. So he was pulling the old Rodney Dangerfield from Caddyshack.
My arm, it's broken.
Yeah.
Well, if we get Zach out there, Newt, please take a picture or a video and post it on social media so we can make sure that Zach's doing what he's supposed to do and held to his word there. So we'll keep track of that, and we'll get a full report on that on next week's show. Our thanks to Chris Newton and Zach McCormick joining us here once again for this week at Anderson High School Athletics here on ASP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.